Today, actually, in the Facebook group, you can go to the Facebook group at epiclifeleague.com. That just forwards you to the Facebook group. Um, I got a question today, and let me get that go right here. So Sean actually asked a question. Finally made it to a live scope. Yes, welcome. Yeah, earlier today. Here's the thing. Hey, Sean. Sean's in. Here's the thing. I started realizing I was trying to make the scope things become almost to the level of a podcast. And I was getting really heavy into production, really almost overdoing it. Hey, Madan, how's it going? Yeah, good morning. And so here's the thing, it started wearing on me. And I don't want it to do that. This was supposed to more be us just having a conversation, whether it's in the morning or in the evening. And I didn't want it to have to be too big of a thing. I just wanted to talk about epic stuff and even if it's like negative stuff that we're trying to figure out, right? Like, so for instance, I'll give you an example. So I started reading this book at the first of the week. I'm finished with it now, but I'll tell you what. And I did a scope on it Monday, right? We talked all about the 6 different influences we have when we're trying to make a change. But here's what I found. I got about halfway through the book and realized everything else is just examples, and I already got it. And it's so funny because even though I'm reading as much as I am, 3 to 5 books a week I keep talking about that I'm reading, I still have this desire to read the whole book, even if it gets to a point where I'm not enjoying it. Or I go, I get it, I already got it. And I still have this old weird habit in my mind going, no, these people took all this time to write this book, I gotta read every word, which is complete crap. So I finished it. I decided, nope, I got halfway through. I started, glancing through the rest of it and went, nope, I'm done. And one of the other things I felt actually about this was that, oh my gosh, it's almost midnight in Sydney. Was going to go to bed. All right. Well, cool. Okay, well, we'll try and get to the thing here in just a second. But one of the other things I was going to mention about the whole reading thing is it made me wonder, a lot of people have said when I've talked about how much I read, they've said, that they don't like to read, or it's just too time consuming and this kind of stuff. And it makes me wonder if really what they're falling into is the trap of thinking they have to read every freaking word. And really, I don't think of it that way. I go in and I go, okay, if I get one awesome thing, one thing that either I didn't know or that reminds me and then gives me some actions to take, it was worth it. But I'm under no obligation to read the whole book. How crazy is that? Oh my gosh, Johnny, you're here. I didn't think you'd be here. On vacation, right? Are you still on? You're at the beach somewhere? But anyway, so I finished this book. I said I was going to talk more about it this week, and really, the more talking about it is saying that I'm done, and that one scope I did about it was enough. So this is complete. All right, so here's the question that Sean brought up. He said, what has been your biggest failure? Oh, Sean, you're here. Awesome. Yeah, you can catch the replay. Okay, so you just paused the Matrix to watch this live. Awesome. That's awesome that you're watching that. So Sean said, what has been your greatest failure and what did you learn from it? So as I'm talking right now, think of what yours is, and if you want to share, we can kind of talk about it. But first, before you type it in, I'll tell you probably what I think my biggest one was, and then I'll give you a little bonus one as well. I got to watch The Matrix again. Yeah, in the Facebook group, I talked about everybody's got to watch that because I make so many references to it. Okay, so here's what I think has probably been my biggest failure, and I actually just finally did something about it a whopping like 7 weeks ago or something. So I think I've mentioned before that at age 19, I read Anthony Robbins for the first time ever, right? And that was 25 years ago. This is crazy that to even say it out loud. 25 years ago, I read Anthony Robbins for the first time, and I thought to myself, that's what I want to do. I want to not only learn all the stuff he had to learn to be able to write a book about this, but I was like, I want to do this. I want to inspire epic, like it seemed like he was doing. And I bought courses, I've seen, so much video on him, but I wanted to do that. But here's what happened, and here's where, to me, I consider it a failure. I quit before I started. right? So I've said in the past that the only way to fail is to quit. And it's funny because I think people take that as kind of a low end motivational, like it should be on a meme or something like that. But I don't just simply mean, and I also don't even mean that quitting is bad. Maybe you quit doing something that you didn't want to do, or you quit doing something that isn't giving you value anymore. I think it's okay. It's absolutely okay to quit. But to constantly thinking that a certain result means you're a failure is total bullshit. It's complete crap. Like if you try to, let's say, lose 30 pounds and instead you gain 2 pounds, you didn't fail, you just didn't get the result you wanted. Because I think if we think, oh, we're failures because we didn't get a result, then we won't keep going. We won't keep trying, right? So let's go back to 19. That's what I wanted to do. And I'll tell you what, I've spent the last 25 years doing almost everything else except for trying to do that thing until when I started doing this Epic Life League and these scopes and all the stuff that I'm putting together. Now, here's the thing, because most of you know me from Internet Business Mastery. Here's the cool thing. The last 10 years I've been doing that business. It's been wildly successful. We've made millions of dollars. It's been awesome. But, and I don't particularly consider that particularly a failure, obviously, but it's only one slice of what I wanted to talk about, right? In the past, I've talked about an epic life is included is, you know, an epic mind, epic emotion, control and understanding of your emotions, epic financial freedom, which was what I've been doing with Internet Business Mastery, right? Not only for myself and helping other people as well, but then there's also relationship and physical and even political. We've talked about just a tiny bit. Political freedom, relationship freedom, and I'll get back to the relationship freedom when I tell you my little bonus side failure. But here's the thing. So for 25 years, my biggest failure is that I didn't go after the thing that I absolutely wanted to do. Which is what I'm doing now, talking about this, designing stuff that I'm working on. How about setting the bar too high and achieving small victories first? Yeah, that's part of the process of doing it. But the difference with this is I wanted to do that thing and I didn't do it at all. Right? Like that wasn't even setting the bar high and then doing little things. I basically I read his book, and it's funny, I just got the book recently, which is Anthony Robbins' Awaken the Giant Within. And that was the book that made me go, oh my God, I didn't know people do this. People teach other people how to live. Nobody taught me how to live. Like people taught me the skill of maybe reading and writing and some things like this, but nobody said, ooh, find out about yourself, find your strengths, figure out what your desires are and go for them. Instead, everything was restriction, right? You can't do that. You shouldn't do that. You know, you're a bad person if you do that. If you even think that, you're a bad person. That's all the stuff really I got as opposed to what I read in that Anthony Robbins book. Man, I should have grabbed it. But anyway, so to me, the failure was the fact, yeah, there's a lot that isn't taught to us, particularly through school. John says, I just had a big aha moment this morning. My biggest failure has been patient impatience. Yeah, which we talked about in the past. Yeah, and I'll tell you really quickly, patient impatience, I have to try and say it right, is basically the idea that you go, oh, and someday I'll do it. There will be a time when I finally do the thing that I want to do, but I'll do it later. It can even be as small as, you know what, I want to lose 20 pounds, I'll start on New Year's, right? I just need to get through the holidays because I'm going to eat all this crap, and then in New Year's. That would be patient. You're patient with your goals. And then when you actually start, which most people don't do, by the way, most people do not start those goals and those huge desires that they have, but if they do, they're completely impatient with the results. So January 1st comes, and 1 week in, you're hungry all the time because you're on a diet, you're trying to lose those 30 pounds, and then you're completely impatient with the process, and you're like, I can't do it. Maybe I'll do it in the summer, right? And so you're impatient, and I talked about in the past, we want to be impatient patients. And that's where when you have an idea, so for instance, as I talked about, someday, yeah, exactly. I talked about how when I finally realized what this whole Periscope thing is, within 4 days I did my first scope, and I just totally took in all this information, I became completely impatient about it. I took massive action, got up to about what I would consider probably about 25-30% of the knowledge out there, bought a bunch of courses, just completely engulfed myself, and then just did it and started doing it. And that was impatient. But then what happens is you have to then be patient with the results. Because you got to be patient with your gaining of skill, your ability to do something. You've got to be impatient with it. So thanks for reminding me about that, John. The impatient patience, that's what we want to be. So anyway, for me, again, the 25 years, I was incredibly patient. So patient, I didn't even take the action until just 7 weeks ago to finally do it. Yeah, Kim, that's an awesome one. She says, biggest failure is, I missed it before it went out, but basically owning other people's desires for what I should do. Is that kind of what you were saying? But anyway, so I look at that now as my biggest failure is not trusting in myself to be able to do the thing that I desired doing from that age. So I'll tell you, since 19, I've wanted to do that. And I kept doing things that were kind of like it, or I don't know, I thought, well, I'll use this information later when I patiently decide to finally do it one day. And yes, I all the things the skills that I learned over the last 25 years, many of them are very, very helpful now, right? But I could have learned those along the way when I was in my patient phase while I'm gaining the skill. Hey, Dakira. Actually, I just did an interview on Dakira's show here, and there was a part that I was so excited about I had to re-listen to because I recorded my version. I can't wait till that comes out. I had to re-listen to it today about taking on, instead of thinking of habits as this outside thing, we take on the identity first, which I have first learned from or heard from James Clear. And I'm going to go much deeper into that. But anyway, so that was one of my biggest failures, I think. And what I learned from it is how complete bullshit it is that we stop ourselves from going after those desires. Now, I no longer think that purpose, there's some destiny purpose, or you're born for a certain purpose. But I think just as important is if you have a desire to do some big, great thing, some epic thing, then you owe it to yourself to do it. Why not? Why not? What is, the only thing stopping us, as somebody just mentioned, was fear. Let's see, waiting for everything to be perfect before beginning has been mine. And actually, that's very similar to the patient thing. And part of the whole being patient until you finally take the step, the first major step, is trying to make sure everything's possible and ready, and that's what I was saying just a second ago, where people are like, well, after the holidays, then I'll start a diet, right? Because I know I'm going to eat like an asshole through the holidays, so the moment that's done, boom, I'm going to get back onto it, rather than going, no, I'm starting today. Today is the day. I don't have to wait till Monday. I don't have to wait till the first of the month. I don't have to wait till January 1st. I can be epic today. I don't have to wait, right? So that's probably been my biggest, and the thing I learned from it, and I even was talking to, again, my 15-year-old daughter, Amberly. I was saying, oh my God, please do not make this mistake. Please do not, have this thing in you that you absolutely want to do, and have other people go, no, instead, go be an accountant, or whatever else. Like, if accounting isn't your thing and you don't love numbers, then don't go do that because, oh, it's safe. Right? So I was trying to go, okay, well, I've learned from it, and I don't want to live the rest of my life preparing to live my life. Like 25 years, boom, that was enough. Right? I think that's the thing that I wanted to learn. Yeah, see, most people think they go into something, whether it's accounting or I know, Dakira, some people are lawyers, or they're trying to do these certain things that they go, oh my God, I'm going to have a financially stable life by doing these certain things. But deep inside, they have something else that they desire doing, right? Like somebody else put this information on them. Now, if you absolutely love numbers, you love figuring out math problems, and that's your thing, that's a whole different thing. That's you doing the thing you desire. But it's about finding that, and that's what I was telling her yesterday, because I was like going, oh my God, I spent 25 years doing everything but the thing I wanted to do, or skirting around the edges, right? So that's my thing. So I don't know if you guys want to type in maybe what you consider your biggest failure and then what you learned from it. That would be awesome. Let's talk about that. And again, I'm going to try and I keep altering what I'm doing with Periscope. I want to again be a little bit more conversational, add little nuggets of wisdom instead of what I started doing was doing huge presentation, and it would take me 2 hours to prepare for it, and then it would take me an hour and a half after to fix it. Procrastination. Okay, it's scary to be and do who you really believe you are, right? Yeah. Yeah, that's a really tough thing. But here's the thing, and it's funny because I've been saying this for a little while now, and then I found out that Kurt Cobain said it supposedly. I didn't even know. I must have read it somewhere, but I said I'd rather be hated for who I truly am than loved for who I'm not. Right? Like that's a huge thing. What you're doing is epic. Thank you. Yeah, I'm definitely enjoying it. At least I'm trying to continue to enjoy it. But so. The idea of, again, being who you truly are. Okay, so James says hitting rock bottom, going to jail, and being convicted of a felony. Yeah, that would be a massive thing as well. And I'm sure what it was you were doing that made all that happen was not being true to yourself. My biggest failure, let me stop this. My biggest failure is not acting when I knew I should and coming back to the same point again. Yeah, oh my God. Yeah, welcome to the club. We're all in that club, right? We're all in the club of, keep having to restart. And I'll tell you, one thing that this book, Change Anything right here, did talk about is one of the things you're supposed to do is you're supposed to think of, if I keep doing the behavior I want to change, if I keep doing it, what's my life going to look like in 10 years, right? And then you kind of put yourself into the future if you don't do the change. So that was very, very helpful. Martin says, it's the same thing as you. Yeah. I learned that I wasn't being my authentic self, says James, and that I had a passion for helping others in the same situation. All right. Yeah. Yeah. It's, God, it's so bizarre. It actually sent me into kind of a weird place yesterday, even thinking of the idea of, wow, it took me 25 years to finally get the guts to do it. If you change nothing, nothing happens. Absolutely. Right? So, all right, what else? What else has been, do you feel has been one of your greatest failures, and what did you learn from it? Let's chit-chat. And I'll start one of my others. You can see the difference in you in the last few months, both visually and in your voice. It's great. Awesome. Yeah, it's true. A lot of people have been saying that about Jason and I with our new directions as well, because internet business and talking about financial freedom, definitely interesting. Absolutely love it. I still enjoy helping people in that way. John says acting out of desperation. Sean says not moving the bar after plateauing 18 months into my business and just doing the minimum. Ooh, I'm going to talk about that in a second. Perfectionism. Yeah, and that happened to Jason and I. And we actually talked about it on one of our biggest students, Pat Flynn, had us on his 100th episode show. And we talked about how, man, we hit this plateau, and then we were like, we rode it out. And we rode it out so long that people got above us. They surpassed us, and rightly so, because we were not living up to that high standard that we started with. We started going on cruise control, and then people who were kicking butt passed us. And rightly so, if somebody is doing better than they should have. But yeah, we've been doing the internet business thing for 10 years, and as much as there's still enjoyment in it, it was supposed to, for me, financial freedom was supposed to be one part of all of this epic stuff. All right, because I was more committed to studying in a way that didn't work for me, but worked for others. Right, yeah, let me see if I've still got that. God, I love saying this quote. Okay, and so this is from Mastery from Robert Greene. And this is really, really, really what I was doing. Okay, I was being my false self for 25 years. I failed the bar 3 times because of it. Right. Oh, it's so crazy. And that all comes down to, and it's funny because I just said this on Takira's podcast, which is grinding it out, right? grinding it out. So again, and I've said this a couple times before, your false self is the accumulation of all the voices you've internalized from other people, parents and friends who want you to conform to their idea of what you should be like and what you should do, as well as societal pressures to adhere to certain values that can easily seduce you. That is what it has been, right? Like, I just didn't think, I was like going, well, Anthony Robbins did it. I can't do that. It's done. And I had all the voices in my head going, oh, you can't do that. What do you know about anything? Right? Like, you don't know anything about, and even though I read Anthony Robbins' book and he's like talking about how he was living in a 400 square foot apartment, 40 pounds overweight, didn't even have this willpower to like read and talk about stuff. Really, that is what I'll say I learned. What has been the greatest failure? Living within my false self. Total bullshit. And now, as I get closer and closer, because I'll tell you what, Internet Business Mastery definitely got me closest to, it has pushed me closest to my true self, because I love talking about financial freedom for sure. But I also love talking about emotional freedom, mental freedom, relationship freedom. There's so many other things that we can talk about within the realm of freedom, right? Escaping the matrix. Somebody's talking about watching the Matrix. Yeah, that's what I use that as the example of what we're trying to do. We're trying to escape the matrix, at least mentally. Yeah, freedom in general. Absolutely. All right, what else? What other things? And I'll tell you yes, did you ever feel boxed in? Yeah, I'll tell you, one of the things, it's funny because even with Internet Business Mastery, Jason and I have been even opening up more. One of the things that we kind of boxed ourselves in on is, and it's just something that I think living with your family's dogma. Oh my God, yeah, that's a big one. That's something that I got rid of too. But with Internet Business Mastery, and by the way, thanks for all the hearts. If you're new, tapping the screen lets me know that you're finding value in this. And so just seeing the hearts go up, I go, oh, great. I'm glad people are finding value in it. So you can tap up to like 500 or something like that per scope. But anyway, so man, what was I talking about? Oh, boxed in. Okay, so one of the ways that we were boxed in a little bit is once we got the level of what people considered us experts, it's harder to show that you're just a person like everybody else trying to figure stuff out. Some things work, some things don't. So we got into kind of this mode, or at least I did, of going, wow, it's way too weird to now be vulnerable when somebody is giving me the status people bought into and went, okay, well, he's an expert. And so I had to go, okay, I'm an expert. I have to say things as an expert. I have to disagree with things as an expert. And it was less easy to be authentic in some ways, right? And go, I'm scared. Some things don't work well. Sometimes money gets tight for a second until you make more things happen, until you start realizing, oh, I got to create more value. That's how you get more value back. Mikhail says, living in my comfort zone for too many years when it comes to my work. Forgetting I'm not on Periscope. My biggest failure is not listening to my gut. Yeah, and really, I think that is your true self, right? Your true self is going, here's what I desire. Like, I want to go do this. Like, we don't have to have it be this magic thing like, oh, it's my destiny to be on earth to do this one thing. If you've got a desire to go do the thing, go do the thing. And here's one of the things that I was talking about on Dakira's podcast. Pay the consequences. Be okay with the consequences. Because Jason and I, when we started our internet business, here's the thing. We found people that were making insane amounts of money. Like, I met a guy that was making over $1 million every month selling diet pills. And he even said, oh my God, it's so easy. I just do this, this, and this, and I'm able to make $1 million a month selling diet pills. Now, for me, I was going, I'm not going to sell fake crap, right? Like, diet pills don't work. It's completely not real. And he was okay with it. This guy was okay with it. And I went, okay, I could go do that. I could do what he he's doing because he just told me how to do it and make a ton of money. But I realized that for me, I'm going to pay the consequences for being me, and it's not me to sell that kind of bullshit. Like, I'm not going to do that. I could. The only thing that's stopping me is me, because that's not the epic life I want to live, is selling people this fake stuff, right? So, I pay the consequences by not making $1 million a month, right? Because Internet Business Mastery is as great as it's been. We've never even come close to $1 million a month. Right? Like, we've made millions of dollars with the company itself, but not a month. That's crazy. But if you look at that desire and you go, I'm going to be that person. I'm going to be that person my gut is telling me to be, or my desires are telling me to be, and then be willing to pay the consequences. You're going to take the benefits and the consequences, because the consequences of me talking about this epic life stuff, as opposed to giving you one simple motivational meme, and then you think about it and you go, oh, that's so nice. It says I can do anything I want with my world. And then you never think about it again. I could do that and have 10 times the amount of people in my Facebook group and on my scopes and stuff like that. And I call that impotent motivational bullshit, right? Just one little motivational quote, that's it. Whereas I would rather, like a quote like we talked about with that false self stuff, where we can get into it and go, oh my God, that is me, and let's figure out how to get rid of that false self stuff. All right. Okay, all sorts of stuff going on. Okay, I'm back in reading the comments. So, anybody else want to talk about what your greatest fear was? That's why I love your thing. All right, thanks. It's funny because I asked in the Facebook group about what are other things that are similar to what I'm doing here, right? Like, it's really hard to say what this is. The closest thing is like personal development, self-help, this kind of stuff. But I was like, what else is out there? And I went and looked at what other people are saying, and there are a couple impotent motivational bullshit. Yeah. Yeah, and I actually just changed the description in the Facebook group to make sure I added that, because I went and looked, and there are some people that, all they do is quote those motivational memes. That's it. They don't even add something to it. They don't say anything else about it. And 100,000 people are following them, liking it every day, as if any of that matters. As if reading some stupid little meme without any sort of context, without any action plan, means anything. It's so irritating. But anyway, okay, so what else? What else has been your greatest failure? Finding your mastery. All right. Yeah, it's funny. I have unliked and ungrouped, unattached myself from so many groups that are about like this personal development type stuff, because it ends up just being, they're just simply saying some little phrase that really barely means anything. Not finishing what I start. Yeah, quotes can be mental masturbation. That's such a great term. I use mental masturbation all the time, and my daughter used to be embarrassed by it. Now I think I've heard her say it a couple of times. Mental masturbation. Oh yeah, it's a great quote. And then you're done, and then you go on with your day. It means nothing. It does nothing to you other than, and I use the word feelies, which actually comes from, what's his name? Louis C.K., right? He talks about, oh, my feelies, you hurt my feelies. Doing what someone else wants me to do instead of being me. Absolutely. Martin says, I've been afraid to mature and become an adult because the adult examples I had sucked. Taking on too many things, so hard because I love it. I'll tell you what, the focus thing is critical, it seems, in terms of the business stuff, at least. Having at least one focus, that's one thing that we did do, I think, sort of right with the internet business stuff. We got to the point where we could finally put time and effort into other things. Okay, greatest failure, being too afraid of what others would think of me instead of being true to me. Yeah, that is literally the core, right? That's what we talked about when we were talking about the book Daring Greatly by Brene Brown, right? She said at the core is being vulnerable, and under that is shame, and being afraid of being shamed, right? And ostracized from the people around us. But I'll tell you what, if the people around you would give you shame or want to make you feel shame for being you, you're around the wrong people. Fuck those people. Be around epic people. Be around people that go, oh my God, I can't believe I finally found you. Like, you're so awesome. Where have you been, right? Shame is a hell of a drug. Yeah, it's as I mentioned before when we talked about the shame thing in the world of people that are into it's called the voluntarist movement. They talk about we don't have to have prisons in the same way that we do in more of a voluntarist society. Shame and ostracism are far worse than simply putting somebody in a cage and going, you are bad. So it's funny, they were using kind of that idea. Let's see. What do you do when people like that are unavoidable? I guess it depends. Yeah, the crab mentality, we talked about that in the Facebook group as well. It depends. I would have to know the circumstances because if they're unavoidable, meaning at work you're around those, you have to take steps to not let their stuff come in. They can say what they want, or you can even say, yeah, I don't want to hear this crap. Now, if they're your boss, you hear it and you go out and you purge that, get that shit out of your head. Yeah, right on, I realized that. And after getting rid of some of that weight, I found joy. Yeah, what's better than being true to who you freaking are? Like, safety, how absolutely insane is that? Safety, security, what's it called? We talked about it yesterday. I can't remember the word. It was the guy that I had to kick out. He said he was very comfortable with where he is. I'm fine with exactly how things are. And I was saying, that is like the kiss of death for me, right? Like, being content with exactly how things are is the fixed mindset. I don't want things to change. This is the first time in human history where people, or most people are safe. Yeah, satisfied. Thank you. Satisfied. I'm divorcing all the negativity and not being my true self. I'm divorcing all the negativity. Right, and trying to be your true self, I imagine. Another failure, trying to fit in. Yeah, if you're trying to fit in with people and it's making you feel unhappy, they're the wrong people. Yeah, content and satisfied. Satisfied meant I'm exactly fine with what it is right now. I don't want it to change. And that's where I was saying, screw satisfaction. Instead, have gratitude because we still want to be able to, feel good feelings about what has happened and what has done. Meaning she was making me not be my true self. Right, or didn't want you to be. Okay, so I'll tell you, my other big failure, I think, was getting married when I absolutely did not want to get married. And I bring that up because of what you said. What I ended up finding out was that I put this facade on, not acting when the time was right was another biggest failure. I'm Never Satisfied is a Prince song. Awesome. So in the whole marriage thing, I had no interest in being married, but I put on this facade of, okay, well, now I got to be an adult. I want to have kids. I wanted 2 daughters, and just by whatever chance, I got 2 daughters. But I didn't want to be married, and I was very clear that I didn't want to be married, but ended up married. Because I put on this facade of everybody saying, oh, you got to compromise. Relationships are about compromise. It's about altering yourself and merging together. All stuff I think is complete bullshit now. But you have to, shift who you are and merge into this one being. Right? Well, here's the thing. So I did that, but the only way I could do that was not being true to myself. I had to be this other person that could, merge in with the person that I married. And I did that, and I see that as a huge failure because talk about not being true to myself. I became this other person. It wasn't me. It was like Jeremy Light or something. Like the couple of things that the person I was with seemed to like about me, okay, I enhanced that, right? But all the things, I would give little tastes of who I really was, and the person was like, nope. And I'd go, okay, I'll suppress that, right? And I think that's actually one thing that generally happens with marriage. That's a whole other, it's part of the process of compromise with marriage, which now I don't believe in compromise in a relationship. I believe find somebody that has similar general ideas of how to live life and be with that person where you don't have to compromise in that way. You don't have to reduce yourself to be with somebody else. That's been my life for over 15 years now. So happy now. Dang, I missed it. So anyway, so that being married when I absolutely didn't want to was a humongous failure because I was not being true to myself. I think Let's see. Let me see if I can grab that one. I think sometimes that's how you find who you really are. I'm not sure what. By compromising, doing that. Let's see. Need to find some epic friends. Met a few so far, but they're assholes. Well, here's the thing. Most of the people that I know are epic can look like assholes because they're so true to what they are, and they're not willing to shift. And we're so used to people shifting and merging their personalities to be around other people. When somebody's strong, it can look that way. I always say now, like, man, I love being an asshole. And what I mean by that is true to myself, even if it's not convenient to other people. Marriage is about compromise, but like which movie to watch tonight, not compromising yourself. Yeah, that might be a little bit different. Epic assholes, yes. I even am not real big on compromising. If I want to watch this movie and the person I'm with wants to watch that movie, go watch that movie and I'll watch this movie. Or we find something we both actually want to watch together, but if we want to do other things, go do other things. You don't have to sacrifice yourself for me, and I'm absolutely damn not going to sacrifice myself for another person ever again. I don't believe in that. And that's a whole other conversation we'll get into. Anything else? It sounds weird to say I'm not going to sacrifice because we've been taught altruism over everything else, which is complete nonsense. And we've been taught that, obviously, by people who want us to sacrifice for them, not the other way in return. But anyway, okay, so there you go. This is a little more kind of the way I'm going to go now. I just want to chit-chat, want to make it a little bit more informal. I might change things. Let's see, Parent Power says, except for my young kids. Yeah, I don't think it's a sacrifice, though. If I choose a responsibility like my kids, like, I'll tell you what, I could have moved. I live in Salt Lake City only because of my daughters, only because when we got divorced, my ex-wife has, a certain level of custody. And if I want to see my kids, I got to live in Salt Lake. I can live anywhere in the world. I mean, the internet business thing, but it's not a sacrifice to me to be around them. So I don't think of it as a sacrifice per se. You know what I mean? There's some times when I go, ugh. Like I'm ready to move and stuff like that. But I chose to do that, and I chose even in the beginning, even the young years, which were really, really hard for me, because obviously I like communicating. So those first 5 years or so when communication was, that was a little bit harder, right? But that was part of the process, and I committed to that, and I did everything I could to enjoy as much of it as I could. But that's different than sacrifice. To me, sacrifice is where you're no longer in control of the choice. Have you ever read Never Eat Alone? Epic on regarding relationship. I haven't, but I've had several people mention that. I've spent so much time on the relationship stuff. I'm pretty solid with it. I might still check that out because you're maybe the fifth person that said, you got to check this out. So maybe I'll do a quick pass through it. The author rubs me the wrong way. Ooh, that sounds good. I like that. Rubs me the wrong way is usually a good sign for me, unless it's rubbed me the wrong way with what they say about religion stuff, or I don't know, something like that. In relationships, I think it's best to be real. Compromising makes you resentful. 100% agree. 100% agree. All right, anything else for anybody else? Any other, I know I missed some people because of my ranting. Let's see, I'll be the sixth in. It's a good book and on Audible. Yeah, maybe I'll throw that, maybe I'll just get it on Audible for now and go for a walk and listen to it today. Collaborate, don't compromise. Absolutely agree. That is how I think of it now. Collaborate, for sure. Being with somebody that they don't have to be exactly who you are, but the same general idea of how to live life is incredibly important. I did start a company and escaped the matrix, but after 4 years it failed, and now I'm plugged back in. Yeah, man, that's a tough one. It's just a cycle, I guess. You know what I mean? Like, it can be a cycle of how the ebbs and flows of escape is. But I think if you're thinking about it and you're planning the next thing, or, you're choosing the other impressively great things to do, you will be able to escape at least the business matrix or the employee matrix if that's what you want. Yeah, it's not a failure, it's a lesson. Yeah, most people it's just failure, right? Like if you have a fixed mindset and you don't get the result you want, you failed and you don't want anybody to know about it. The book reminds us, epics, of why we collaborate. Says Donna about never eat alone, I imagine, right? 36 Facebook push-ups yesterday. Awesome. Yeah, I probably did about that as well. And what that refers to is tiny habits we talked about before. You attach a new habit you're trying to get into your life to something you already do. So one of the things I did was every time I check Facebook, I get down and I do 2 push-ups. And so he did as well, has that same tiny habit collection. So 36 push-ups, then you check Facebook a lot, right? Like I did 60 in one day and I pulled this muscle. So I've had to slow down on checking Facebook because I do it all for the Facebook group. I love it. Every failed relationships bring you closer to your epic relationship. Well, that is sort of what happened. I would rather know this stuff ahead of time and start from the area of epic. And only allow that in and learn from that position, because I'll tell you what, I know there's a theory, and I wish I could remember it. I need to do sit-ups for Periscope. Yeah, exactly. When this is over, go do 5 sit-ups, right? There's this the idea of we have to go through the things we've gone through in life to be able to get to where we are, or you have to have all these mistakes to get there. Well, here's the thing. I think that it's okay to skip some of those steps because there are endless steps. Why start at the absolute bottom? And that really, to me, is what reading is, or learning from a mentor, or learning from coaches. You can skip 10 of those learning experiences, let's call it, because you're never going to stop learning if you're a growth mindset. If you're an epic person, learning is going to be a lifetime adventure. So if you can skip 10 steps here, 5 steps here, 2 steps here, you're still going to have an endless amount of growth and steps. But to me, I want to get past some of them, right? And so I kind of more think of it as, even though I did learn from many of those relationships, now I want to go to I want to go to level 2 and then start learning those. And I want to get to level 2 or level 3 quicker, right? If only I was like John Carter from Mars, leaps ahead instead of baby steps. Yeah, it's funny because one of the things that occurred to me about this book, which is why I kind of skipped around and considered myself finished, was it started getting really complicated. And I'm like going, if I spend too much time in the intricacies of small things, how am I going to be able to leap ahead? And there's 2 ways of thinking it. Maybe I need some of those small things to be able to leap ahead, but at some point my gut started saying, as we talked about, okay, I'm done with this. I got it. I need to move on. But if I had have continued, I would have been going, oh, I'm just messing around with these small things that I already understood. I think it's important to skip steps for sure, but realistically, you'll have points in your life, I probably missed, relationships where a lesson can be effective communication. Most epic things we can do is confront our true self. So easy to skip ahead, not necessarily something huge. Yeah, so I think that once you're, being your true self, then it's much easier, because then it's all about the idea of going, like I did today. I got the message from my true self going, okay, you're done. You're done. You can skip the last part of this book. As I started reading it, I'm trying to stay very true to that voice now. Even if it goes against, I must read it, the entire book, every word. Yeah, screw that. I'm going to stick to what my true self is saying, what my gut's saying is to go next. All right. Anything else? We end up going long again. So cool. And thank you to Sean, I believe. Let's see. Sean, for asking that question. And I will put a link to this in the Facebook group, epiclifeleague.com. I'll put that, Sean, in your post. This is a great scope. Awesome. So funny, because this scope was more, let's just go roll off the cuff. This is more, again, how I wanted it to be. Again, I started getting back into my normal way of what we do with Internet Business Mastery. We outline it. I want to think about it. I want to have every aspect going, rather than let's just go go for it. Let's just go off the cuff. Let's have a conversation. And Dan says his gut says gurgle. All right. Well, that's a bummer. Because, I think that today is going to remain epic. Yes. And I did that again this morning. I got up and went, okay, I'm choosing to be alive. I choose epic. Let's do it. Let's go be epic. Any day. It's just a Thursday. Let's be epic. All right. I guess I'm going to leave it there. Thank you guys so much. I think I'm actually going to shift when I do it. I'm just going to do it when I feel like doing it. And if I plan a big presentation, I'll let you guys know well in advance so that, you can think about, okay, this is going to be 6 steps to doing this. But I want to start just riffing. Let's talk. Let's go through things because there's so much to talk about with this. Sometimes just letting it roll and letting it come just because of one question can be very, very good as well. Thank you guys so much for being here. Remember to choose epic.